All right, so you've prayed that prayer of surrender. You've said, God, this situation isn't going to change, so use it to change me. Then you stopped wishing for things to be different, got up off your butt, and started building a life right where you are. But there's one more insight from Jeremiah 29 that you need to start applying to your life right now. I'll tell you what it is, how it played out in my own life, and what it means for you today on Puddle Road. You know Jeremiah 29:11, the words that God spoke to the Israelites while they were stuck in Babylon, where God says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. But we've spent the last few videos, and I'll post links in the description below, looking at the passage leading up to that verse. So a large group of Israelites have been taken into exile in Babylon, and all they want to do is go home. But God tells them through Jeremiah that they are going to be there for 70 long years. And so, instead of wishing for what isn't going to be, they need to start building a life while they are there. He tells them in verse 5, build houses and settle down, plant gardens and eat what they produce. Build a life while you are there. But then he goes on to verse 6 and he says this. He says, marry and have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there. Do not decrease. This was a reminder to prepare a future. While you are building your life in the present, prepare your life for the future. And I'm sure that the Israelites could have come up with lots of reasons not to want to focus on the future, not to want to bring a future generation into the world they were living in. I imagine they were thinking, I don't want to raise kids in this pagan culture. It's too expensive to support a family in Babylon. And who's to say that God is even going to deliver us? I mean, what if 70 years come and go and we're still here? They had all kinds of reasons to not want to prepare a future, but they only had one reason to prepare a future, and that reason was hope. So, back to my story. Years ago, when I was building a life in that job I didn't want to be in, knowing that I was called to ministry, but with absolutely no power to make it happen, the one thing that I did have was hope. I could have stopped at the building a life part. I could have stopped at verse 5. I could have gotten comfortable in my job. I was starting to like it. I could have settled down for the long haul. I mean, I was advancing. I could have laid down my dream of ministry and just said, hey, I guess this is all it's going to be. But I couldn't do it. I have this Jeremiah 29:11 in me saying, yes, this is where you are, but this isn't where you're always going to be. So you'd better prepare a future. And so I did. And man, it was not easy. I was working full time at the hospital. I was working part time in ministry as a worship leader and assistant pastor. I was trying to be a good husband. I was raising three children. I was coaching their sports teams. I was working out 4 to 6 days a week and still having to make time to prepare for the future that I believed. That's all I had, a belief, the future that I believed the Lord had for me. And that meant years of burning a week's vacation every January to go to Indianapolis and take seminary classes. That meant sitting at my kitchen table at 4:30 in the morning with a gallon of coffee and a whole bunch of goop in my eyes while the rest of the world was sleeping, writing papers and completing coursework. It meant accepting speaking engagements that I didn't have time to accept and prepping messages that I didn't have energy to prep. That meant having days when I was so tired and overwhelmed and discouraged that all I could do was pray for the strength to get through the next few hours or sometimes minutes. That has a name. It's called grinding. And there are seasons in life where that is what you have to do. Look, if you believed, I mean, truly believed, that somewhere in your backyard there was $10 million buried underground, would you dig for it? Of course you'd dig. But but what if you had to cut down some trees and uproot a bunch of them? Would you still dig? I mean, what if your hands got blistered and bled? Would you still dig then? What if the ground was frozen and hard and you had to get up early in the morning before work and go back out late at night after you put the kids down for bed? What if no one understood you or offered to help? What if it took way longer than you expected? Would you still dig then? Yes. Yes, you would. And the reason that you would dig is because the promise of the future reward would be greater than the present pain of getting there. And that is something that very few people in our culture seem to understand. If you feel exiled, stuck in a job or a situation that you don't want to be in, yes, build a life while you're there. Make the best of it while you are there, but also prepare a future so that you don't have to stay. And preparing a future means learning to grind. It means picking up a side hustle, doing what you love while still being faithful in the job that you hate. It means taking extra classes in the evening and on weekends. It means being disciplined in how you spend your time and your money. It means cultivating relationships that will be good for your future and not just fun for right now. It means putting down the PlayStation and picking up a book. And if that sounds hard, it's because it is. And I mean, what's your alternative? To wake up 20 years from now and take a look back at all the things you could have accomplished and mourn the person that you could have been? No way, man. You were meant for more than that. You have a purpose and an assignment that involves way more than just drifting through life. So learn a lesson from Jeremiah 29. Accept the circumstances you're in. Ask God to use those circumstances to change you and to make you into the kind of person He wants you to be. Build a life while you are there. And no matter how hard it feels at the moment, prepare future. Thank you so much for being with me on Puddle Road. If you find value in this content, you can help me by liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, sharing it with others who might benefit from it as well. Look, you know, I'm brand new in the YouTube space, and every interaction from you makes it more likely that my content will be shown to more people. So thank you again for being here. Thank you again for interacting, and we'll see you next time.